welcome back to another episode of the Five Tool Baseball Podcast. We're up to episode 57. I'm joined once again by Drew Bishop, as always. And let's just get our scorching hot take out of the way. It's likely to make your car speakers or your headphones or however you listen to this, they might catch on fire. Clayton Kershaw had a perfect game yesterday. He left the game. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. I think everything's going to be all right. I think it's not the end of the baseball world. I know there are a lot of people that were very upset and had some very strong feelings about Clayton Kershaw leaving that game. But Clayton Kershaw had his first start of the year pushed back. He didn't end last season on the mound because he was hurt. He had a shortened, unusual spring training. He really didn't pick up a ball for 3 months during the MLB lockout. So, and he seems like he was okay with the decision. So, Drew, that's my hot take on Clayton Kershaw. I think baseball is going to keep moving on today. They're going to play games. People of all ages are going to compete, and we're just going to keep going ahead and powering through.
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately, he didn't seem mad about it. So he's not, I mean, I'm going to trust that he knows his body and his limitations as well as anybody. And if he's not upset about it, I'm not going to be. I mean, what happens if he stays in the game, doesn't get the perfect game, and gets injured as a result of it? Then what? But I did find it funny. They, on the replay on MLB TV, they were showing, they kept showing these two Dodger fans that were, I guess, at the game. Mm-hmm. And they were just loving every out all the way. And then I guess they said the reliever that came in for him got booed when he came.
That poor when they
announced him
or whatever, that poor guy, I'm sure he did not want anything to do with being on the mound in that situation.
Right. Yeah. So he just promptly gave up a hit. I think he got one out, then gave up a hit, just get it out of the way. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to argue when you see all these guys getting scratched and dropped left and right from starts. And I mean, it's going to be a problem. I mean, it's already a problem in some regards. I mean, you've seen it happen a lot already. And for fantasy owners across the board, I mean, it's just like, what do you do? I mean, I think I told you, in our league, we added spots because of it. We added bench spots just to hopefully negate some of that in these first couple of weeks. But yeah, it's a problem. And I mean, the Dodgers aren't trying to win a game their goal is not to win all the games in April.
Right.
Their goal is to win the World Series, and their best chance to do that's going to include Clayton on the mound. So while it stinks for the fans, I mean, everyone wants to witness history, but at some point, and you always look at it like, how many times do you see these guys that throw a no-hitter, they kind of go on the celebration parade for a few days, and then they're awful for a few starts. They just, sometimes it's got to be related to the fatigue, because they usually end up going more pitches than usual. Some of it's just probably getting out of their routine and doing some stuff they're not accustomed to on the PR hype train. But I mean, it's a thing. You see it happen a lot. So like you said, I'm not too worried about it, but
right. Yeah.
It will be baseball today.
Yeah. The bummer of it was he was so efficient, but I mean, I think what we can do this situation is blame Rob Manfred. I mean, that's kind of what Kershaw did. Yeah. Kind of did in his comments, is you want to blame the lockout. It's I saw so many pitchers yesterday leave starts in before the fifth inning, because these teams are look, these arms aren't built up. We're not going to keep trotting these guys out there because we need them over the course of 6 months and hopefully a seventh month in the postseason, as opposed to needing them in April. Like Tristan McKenzie threw extremely well at Cincinnati, and they got him out of there before the 5th, and Nestor Cortez. And on the flip side, on the non-Clayton Kershaw side, did you see what Vladdy Jr. did last night?
I did. I also
heard
it. I was looking away for a little bit while watching the game, and you heard it and you're like, well, that's gone. Without even seeing it, but that was impressive stuff. I mean, especially after getting his hand stepped on.
Yeah, I got his hand stepped on. So he hit 3 homers last night. One was 416 feet, one was 427, and one was 443. So big man does not get cheated. Like these are legit bombs. And the guys he hit him off of, he hit 2 off Garrett Cole, and then he hit 1 off Jonathan Loaiza. And the 2 fastballs he hit, one was 95.3, and it was sinking. It was like in on his hands. Another one was 98 from Cole, and I believe the other one was a slider that he hit out. And it's like, those pitches he hit on the inner half, I can't explain how a guy like that hits that ball out the way he did, like on a line, as far as he did. It's just incredible. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've seen a hitter, when you kind of add the context of who he was facing, have that impressive of a regular season game performance. One of the best. Arguably the best starting pitcher in the game. I saw a Paston tweet. It was the highest paid starting pitcher of all time. And then the Loaiza, I think, is one of the best non-closer relievers in the game as well. The guy was unhittable to end last season. So it's exciting because you can just flip on MLB TV and it's like, oh my gosh, you kind of follow on Twitter. It's like, whoa, Vladdy's already hit 1. Now he hit a second one. You tune in, you get to see his 3rd at bat and potentially see something like that. So big fella is off to another good start to begin the season. Do you have him on any fantasy teams?
I do not. Yeah. He was a farm guy for someone, and obviously, as you can imagine, that person has not relented over his ownership. He will probably not be leaving that roster for a while.
Yeah, that's probably the best farm ad you could possibly have is Vladdy Jr., especially now that Tatis is on the DL for a little bit. But we'll get into some game action. Unfortunately, the Dallas area weather was I remember getting a text from you. It was like, hey, is anybody getting really hard hail right now at their house? I was like, whoa.
We've lived here since July. And we've had 3 instances of hail that had bigger hail than we ever had in Austin ever. It was amazing. I was just watching it. It looked like it was snowing. It was like just pure white. Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, I remember you were driving through it one time, going, I think, to a game or somewhere, and like the weather's been. I've been getting a little, knock on wood, I've been getting a little lucky around here when I go to games and stuff. But I know that area has been getting hammered. So. I was a little nervous because everybody was moving games to Monday, and then the Houston area team started doing it Monday, and I kept looking at the weather forecast. It's like, Tuesday doesn't look too bad. So fortunately I got lucky. I got down to Cinco Ranch in the Katy area to see Cinco Ranch play Katy, and wanted to get some eyes on senior UTSA signee Zachary Royce, right-handed pitcher who's been turning a lot of heads. We actually had some really good video on him early in the season when he was kind of getting some scouting attention. There were some scouts there to watch him as well. There was a UTSA coach there. I wonder if he was kind of doing what we used to call in the basketball recruiting world, which was doing a little babysitting, like, hey, I'm here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know you see these scouts in the stands, but I'm here as well. So I went to go see Zachary Royce pitch, and I wanted to see Katy too. I was actually supposed to see these 2 teams a few weeks ago, but they got rained out. And Katy's just been playing exceptionally well. And so wanted to get some eyes on them as well. And Katy ended up winning the game 4-2, really competitive game. I mean, that district is, when you talk about Cinco Ranch and Katy and Katy Tompkins and Seven Lakes, I mean, it's a really, really tough district. But Katy ended up holding on and getting the win 4-2, really competitive game. Royce's stuff really flashed. I mean, there was times where his slider was was really good, swings and misses. The fastball is up to 93. But that Katy lineup really made him work, made him throw a lot of pitches, was able to get him out of the game, I believe, in the 5th inning. I have to go back and look at my notes. But I think that that's a really good get for UTSA. I think that's a guy that has got an opportunity to throw a lot of innings for them. I wonder if maybe they'll want to get him in the mix as a reliever early on in his career before they kind of transitioned him to a starter, maybe similar to like a Tanner Witt kind of had his role with Texas, that power stuff playing out of the bullpen before he transitioned later on as a starter because they just, had so many starters early on in his career. But I think he's got a change up as well. 2 different breaking balls, but the slider to me was kind of the go-to pitch, and exciting player. Arm strength there, physical guy. I think that he's probably not done growing, filling out as well, but he's a big presence on the mound, throws really hard. That's a really, really good get for UTSA. I didn't really know much about Katy's starting pitcher going into it, Lucas Moore, who's a junior, and I came away extremely impressed. Kind of some Aaron Nola-ish vibes with the lower arm slot, kind of that high-waisted athletic type of body, that type of delivery, and this stuff as well. One of those 68 to 72 mile an hour curveballs, kind of the tight spin and the big shape, kind of coming out of that lower slot. But he throws a changeup that's like a split change, and it baffled guys, righties, lefties. Really executed it well to his arm side against lefties. Got swings and misses against righties with it. His fastball was 87 to 89 earlier on, but he could flat out pitch. He could really pitch, really competed well, executed. There's more to come physically. That's a guy to me, like I watched him as yo, this is a D1 guy. This is a guy that D1s are going to really track. They need to keep their eyes on this guy. I think that he's poised for a monster summer season, and probably a big senior season as well. But Lucas Moore, junior right-handed pitcher from Katy, ended up pitching 6 2/3 innings, gave up 1 earned run, 7 hits, but 3 of them were defensive misplays. The wind was crazy. I mean, there was one inning is blown straight out, the next inning's blown to the side, and that kind of wreaked havoc on the defense a little bit for Katy later in the game. But 6 2/3, 7 strikeouts, really competed well, held his stuff deep into the game. Just a guy that I came away a big fan of. But that Katy team, I mean, they're legit. You started going down the list of some of these guys. I mean, Parker Kidwell, who's going to Odessa, ball player, middle infielder. Ryan George, a senior HBU signee, was 4.19 down the line. Looked like he could play. Braden Powers, a lefty, came in from Murray State. Is a Murray State College signee, closed it out for them. Graham Laxton is a 2023 HBU commit. Dominic Melkor, Murray State College 22 signee, did some good things defensively from the catcher spot. Uncommitted Cameron Stuckenborg hit a 2-run homer. Andrew Hilton looked like a dude at shortstop potentially, and I know he's the guy that people are really excited about on the pitching side. Sutton Hull, sophomore, looked like a really interesting right-handed hitter. And then I got to get this name right. Jonathan Farabus, physical senior right-handed hitter, played first base. I really like the swing. He's uncommitted. And he's hitting 3-hole for one of the best teams in the state. That's a guy to me, I think that is definitely talented enough to keep playing somewhere. Like to swing from the right side. He's got some bat speed, physical. He's got some power as well. So that Katy team was really good. And that Cinco Ranch team was legit too. Gavin Rutherford in the 23 class. He's the QB1 for them on the gridiron. Had a really hard hit ball into the right center field gap. I mentioned Royce. Lucas Franco, who we saw in the summer and wrote up during his time with 12 baseball. He's a TCU commit. He's starting on varsity for them, which is a really, really strong accomplishment. Blake Hanson, a 22 A&M signee. He was 4-2 down the line, played center field. And I'm glad I texted Coach Brett Wallace because I was like, hey, has he gotten faster? Because when I saw him in the summer, he played first. And he had actually had a labrum injury, I think, last year. that he's still kind of recovering from. So was impressed with him, moved around really well for a guy that was a physical guy. He can definitely play outfield at the next level. And then Brock DeYoung's a sophomore shortstop for Cinco Ranch. His dad played at Ole Miss. He's going to be a player. Really good actions defensively, athletic, quick transfers, 4.2 down the line. I think his dad is 6'5", so he's a little undersized right now, but I think that he's going to grow. I think he's got a chance to be one of the better guys in the 24 class from a middle infield standpoint. But just a really competitive game. Katy, both those teams are going to be playoff teams, I think, but that district is just so tough. Kind of how we wanted to transition today, and talking about Katy, because to me, they looked like a legitimate state title contender type of team. When you talk about what they can do on the mound, I think Lucas Moore's like their third pitcher. You go up and down their lineup, they're physical, they're athletic, they really compete. They timed up low 90s fastballs, no problem, which you don't often see high school teams do. So we just want to talk today about some of the teams that we've seen so far this year with our own eyes that we think are title contenders. So I'll start with Katy in 6A, because to do what they've done in that district so far and to get my eyes on that roster and a guy like Lucas Moore, who might be your third best pitcher, they've got the ingredients to make a state title run potentially.
Yeah, and sticking in 6A, I'm going to go with the defending state champs, Heath. They have a lot of returning experience on the mound with Baylor Bauman and Johnny Lowe. Hoping to get Cade Sharp, Texas Tech commit, who's been out with injury coming off Tommy John, I think, but an injury. He's going to think he got cleared recently and about to start throwing. So if they can get him ready to go by the time playoffs roll around, like that's another big time arm. You got Trevor Tranberg. I mean, that's Colin Adams is, moved in from California and has been a good left-handed arm out of relief. Just a guy that gets outs and knows how to pitch. But as we go through these teams, one of the things that it's a duh type of statement, but really to be these type of teams that are going to have a chance, you got to have at least two pitchers.
Yep.
A good shortstop and a good catcher. If you don't have those things, you're probably not going to be in a very good position to win state in Texas at any level. But yeah, I mean, Heath checks those boxes with Jet Williams, the pitchers we just talked about on the mound, and Gage Barkley's been catching well. So yeah, I mean, you got to have those ingredients, and Heath is one of my two 6A teams that I think have a chance. The other one's Flower Mound Marcus. They've got good pitching. They've got Ivy League guy Tate Evans, who I saw earlier this year just dominate. He's really good. You've got Hank Hart playing shortstop. You've got Van Klein going to Air Force behind the plate, who's just senior leader, just a winning type player. You got Caden Sorrell, 2023 A&M commit, and you've got Jake Dewar, who can rake.
Yeah, it's a lot of guys.
So they've got the ingredients to do it, and both of those teams just play good baseball. That's the thing that sticks out about these teams that play winning baseball is they play good defense and they don't beat themselves. There's a couple other teams that I had in contention for the list, but in all my time seeing them, they've been a little bit up and down, and a lot of it comes down to fundamental stuff more so than just pure talent.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's thinking back to that Katy game, they picked off Cinco Ranch in the first and third opportunity twice. They know how to play the game. It's just little things like that. I mean, like you said, you got to be able to get your outs on time. You got to be strong up the middle defensively, and you've got to have pitching depth. Because who knows what staffs are going to look like in a month. When you've added even more of those district innings, you're getting into the postseason, and what's the health of your pitching staff, that sort of thing. We see it right now. Guys sometimes have get start skipped for a week or guys in and out of the rotation, that sort of thing. So you've got to have that pitching depth. And I know from what I've seen, I haven't seen Heath personally, but I know that they've just got a long list of guys that can kind of come out of the bullpen and or give them a start and opportunities. But my second 6A team is Tompkins, which they are, let's see here, 21-1. Their only loss is to Katy. They lost 5-2 in that game. Just kind of goes to show you how loaded that district is, that both Katy and Tompkins are two of my 6A title contenders, and they're both in the same district. But I think you make a good case that Tompkins has the best lineup in the state. And it's talking about Jace LaValliette and Drew Markle at shortstop, what he can do there, and Landon West, Jr. committed to Rice, and Jack Little, Wichita State signee. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on of guys that just are really, really good hitters. And they've got so much athleticism too, with LaValliette in center. I mentioned Markle at short. I mean, Jack Little can run, probably sub 4.1 down the line. He kind of is a utility first baseman for them, because they need a guy over there that can catch the ball at first base. So they've been outstanding this year. I mean, they've really, the only team that it was really close with was Cinco Ranch when Zach Royce was pitching. They won that game 4-2, and then Katy beating them 5-2. But everything else, for the most part, has been, they just, after they kind of started a little slow in tournament play, they just been scoring double-digit runs almost every single game. So they're one of those teams, I think, if you've got to get them in 2 games, because if you get to a third game with them, chances are your staff is probably running on fumes a little bit, and they're rolling out those big boppers and that speed and that athleticism all across the lineup. And that's the type of lineup that can put up some crooked numbers in a hurry in those innings against kind of those lesser arms. So Tompkins, to me, definitely one of the 6A title contenders, which gives that district 2 legitimate state title contenders with them and Katy.
Yeah. So moving down to 5A, I'm going to go with a little bit off the radar pick, but team that I got to see, and they have all the ingredients to make a little bit of a run, but Hallsville.
Okay.
They've got Landon Bowden on the mound, who can, that stuff. He's a double-digit strikeout guy almost every outing, it seems like. Lefty that, on the right day can beat anybody. Their other starting pitcher, 2024, Blake Cox. I haven't seen him, but heard a lot of good things. Catcher, senior leader, Matt Houston, Navarro commit. 2024 shortstop, TCU commit, Sawyer Dunnigan. Logan Jones, the guy at the top of the lineup that crushed the ball when I was there. And athletic center fielder Ethan Miller has a chance to really do some stuff in the future. He was one of the ones that I really liked watching him in and out. Just had a cannon through with accuracy, and you can tell we talked about this guy the other time. He reminds me a little bit of Connor Rowe. Played at Texas, really athletic, a little bit thin right now, but big time arm, got some big time bat speed. But they're a team that's got a chance to make some noise, and a lot of it comes down to matchups and who you play. But, they're a team that you definitely don't want to flip for one game against with Bowden on the mound.
No.
It's always that one. Yeah. It's always interesting, the strategy on some of that, but that they could be a team that might go that route, but they might not, because they're so loaded top to bottom, with solid players and guys that, there's some high profile guys on that team too.
You remember the best cautionary tale about flipping and playing a game? There's always, it was a little before our time, but there's always one I think of. It's like, don't do the single game.
Oh, Beckett.
The spring high school at Josh Beckett, and won the flip and decided to do a single game and lost. And if I remember right, they lost like 2-1, and he gave up 2 unearned runs because the catcher couldn't catch the ball, or something fluky happened in the game. But yeah, that's kind of the cautionary tale, because I don't know if we've seen a better high school pitcher in Texas since Josh Beckett way back then.
Well, on the flip side up here, I think must have been either I want to say like 2000 ish. Coppell was loaded. They had Jason Stokes, who was like the national player of the year, just total monster. And they had a bunch of really good players. Like the Jonathan Walsh's older brother was on that team. I think Coy Polk pitched on that team, but Coppell was just absolutely loaded. And I think they were ranked like number one in the state for sure, maybe in the country. But Mesquite Poteet gambled and they threw a little soft tossing lefty that was like barely breaking.
No,
guy named Clayton Jerome, and they won, and Poteet won 1-0 to knock Coppell out. I think it was either like the first or second round, but I just remember it being a huge deal. But yeah, so
dude, that's a situation when you should do it because you're overmatched.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just like, if we're going to get them, it's going to be in a one game because we're not winning 2 games against these guys. But oh man, I can't imagine. It's always the soft tossing lefty. That's what it's always the fastball changeup guy that it just like these guys are used to sometimes facing way harder velocity and stuff. But yeah, I can't imagine. That's that would be a tough beat for sure. I'm gonna stick in 6A with my next team, and that's Lake Travis, a team I saw actually scrimmage earlier this year against another team that's on my list. But they just you talk about depth, and they've got a ton of it on the mound, in the lineup. Defensively, they got a bunch of guys that can play different positions. I think Caden Kent is the heartbeat of that team. He really sets the tone for them. He's just an all business, all baseball, all competitor type of mindset. And I think those guys really feed off of what he brings there and setting the tone at the top of the lineup for those guys. But they've got guys that can hit for average. They got guys that can hit for power. When you talk about guys like Cole Johnson in the middle of the lineup there, they just got Pierce George back. I believe he returned from a shoulder issue earlier this week. I got my first look at Luke Jackson and was really impressed a few weeks ago. They've got all the ingredients. They're 21-3 right now. They're perfect in district so far. A competitive district. Just Bowie's in there. It's a pretty tough district, and they had that big matchup. Early in April, a non-district game against South Lake Carroll, ended up winning that game. We know how good South Lake Carroll is. So I think Lake Travis has the ingredients to really, really make a deep run. OJ Gonzalez, we've written about him before. Junior right-handed pitchers really come on for them. Jackson Baker, junior right-handed pitcher, committed to Alabama, and then Luke Jackson as well. And they've got, they brought up a guy from the JV team. What is his name? Caden Leone, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like mid-80s with a legitimate changeup and a breaking ball. And it's like, wow, these are the types of guys you have on your JV team. So I think Lake Travis has definitely got the ingredients to make a deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, from there, I'm going to drop down to 4A a little bit. Obviously the big bad wolf in 4A is sitting right now, but I haven't seen them. So I'm going to stick with 2 different 4A teams I've seen in the area that have a chance to give them a run for their money with Argyle and Salina. I'm going to start with Argyle first, but they've got senior pitcher Evan Brandt, who's been really good as of late. Park Prater, we've seen do it with the bat and on the mound, good left-handed arm. Hudson Imaterio, who I got to see against Geyer, really throw the ball well. He's a guy that commands fastball both sides of the plate. They've got that shortstop that we always talk about with the winning player with JC Davis. That he's in control out there of the defense and moving guys around, and just feels like he's a big leaguer, really, just the way he moves around on the field and plays the game the right way. Like, he just carries himself like that. You're not going to worry about guys being out of place or not knowing where to go with the ball with him out there. And they've got a good catcher with Sandiford as well. So they're good. And then moving over to Salina, you've got 2 arms there for sure with RJ Ruai, Baylor commit. You've got Noah Bentley, OU commit. They've got a catcher with Caden Mitchell, Illinois commit. And they've got a couple other good young players too. Major Brennan, the Ty Martle Johnny, like that was one of those names that we're never going to get right, but they've got options, man. They've got a lot of talent up and down the lineup. They can pitch, they can play defense, and those two teams are going to have a shot. It'd be interesting to see those two teams go up against Sinton. Those two teams have a chance for sure. They'll definitely make some noise in the playoffs, I would think.
Yeah, whenever you have a rotation like Salina has, I mean, you've got a chance for sure, because those two guys on any given night are going to give that team a chance to beat anybody, regardless of level or whatever, because they're both really, really talented pitchers. And you mentioned them. I have seen Sinton. I saw him 3 times in the at Dripping Springs in that tournament, and you can make a case that you can make a case they're the best team in the state, regardless of classification. It's kind of funny too. I was talking to our guy Jaquay Stewart about this, and you see Sinton roll up, and it's like 13 or 14 players, and you see them kind of roll up, and they're facing a 6A team, and it's like 30 players out there, because they got all these pitcher only guys and everything else, and Sinton doesn't have that. It's like their pitchers play too, like so. They might not have the depth of arms that a Lake Travis or Rockwall Heath or somebody like that has, but their arms at the top are very legit. Wytrek, Jaquay pitches. I mean, they've got some arms on that staff that can get the job done. Braden Brown, who's committed to the same Houston State, is a really talented 2-way player. But you talk about what you want to be strong at. I mean, the catching. Nobody in the state has better catching. You can make a case that their second catcher is better than everybody else's catcher in the state, with Blake Mitchell and Rylan Galvan kind of trading off behind there. And Blake Mitchell is able to go play. They're both able to go play in the infield when they don't catch. Just kind of speaks to their athleticism and their skill level. But they can really hit.
Most D1s in Texas don't have 2 catchers that good.
Right. Yeah. No, you could put them up against pretty much any college catching group, and they don't have the talent that Sinton has down there, but their lineup top to bottom, they just grind. They can run, they can hit the ball out of the yard. And I love the way that they carried themselves too. Like, they didn't carry themselves like a team that knows they're the best highly rated team in 4A. Like, they carried themselves like we're out to kind of prove it every single time we go out here, and especially when they were in those tournaments playing those 6A teams and stuff like that. So they've been remarkably consistent, putting up some big run totals. Just like every night, it's like one of those guys could go off and carry the team. Maybe it's Jaquay one night, maybe it's Rylan Galvan one night, maybe it's Renee Galvan one night, maybe it's Blake Mitchell, maybe it's Brown. Kanan Chester, the list goes on of guys who are just kind of capable of carrying a lineup for a night, and by hitting a home run or doing whatever it is. So sitting in the 4A, I mean, they're going to be really tough to beat. It should be a really, really fun and competitive and deep playoff run for those guys. And then my last one among these 5 state title contenders that I've seen is Georgetown. I saw Georgetown earlier in the year against Lake Travis, and they don't have kind of the long D1 list that a lot of these other big time 6A programs have, although they have guys like Zachary Mazuk signed to Baylor, the catcher, who we're big fans of, 5'55" guy. He's been really red hot at the plate recently. And Zach Zavala, although he's injured right now, I'm just texting with coach over there at Georgetown. They think they're going to get him back in a couple weeks, but they're just one of those teams that they've got a bunch of guys that know how to play and know how to compete. And I was looking at their schedule. I'm going to pull it up right now. The list of teams that they beat in the non-district earlier this year. Let's look at it here. Georgetown. So they beat San Antonio Clark, which we know is a really good 6A team in San Antonio, Smithson Valley, Bernie, Prosper, Highland Park, and Allen. Like, that's a hell of a non-district resume to have some wins against. And their district's tough too. Cedar Park is a legit team. Leander Rouse always does some good things. Round Rock obviously has got Travis Sikora. He hit 100 miles an hour again a bunch of times in his last spot. So that's a really, really tough district, and they're sitting at 19-3 right now. I believe they're 7-2 in district, but they've gone up against some more talented 6A teams, and they've beaten them. They're well coached. They know how to compete. And when you've got the catching defense and two-way catching talent that they have there, and when they get Zavala back, they're going to be really strong up the middle defensively. They just kind of know how to play and know how to win. And I think that they've got the ingredients to make a run there in 5A. And I don't think it'd surprise anybody because that's just kind of what that program's done for a long, long time now.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about it a lot. You know, it's not these teams you list, like there's obviously some star power on most of them, but you know, the difference and the separator a lot of times is the depth. Not necessarily, and I don't necessarily mean the depth on the bench, because like you talk about a program like Sinton, they don't have that many guys, but the guys that are, you know, not the quote unquote stars, that can they play good baseball? Can they be that person that is the player of the game in a big game every now and then? You know, you see it a lot of times, like in some of those championship runs, like there's going to be at least a game where, and you know, there's a quote unquote unsung hero that comes up and does something big. And, you know, looking at these rosters on the teams that we've listed, they all have some of those guys that are just good baseball players, maybe down at the bottom of the lineup that, you know how to win or, you know, get down a bunt or, you know, just make all the routine plays. I think that's the biggest thing that people overlook is, you know, yeah, the talent sticks out a lot in a lot of these scenarios, but, you know, if you may not be in that position if you're not catching and throwing the ball. And I think that's always been one of the separators for me on what makes a team a real contender. Obviously, you got to be able to hit some, you got to be able to pitch. Those are the no-brainers. But if you don't play good defense consistently and limit mistakes, like you're only going to be able to go so far. Yeah. And a lot of times those mistakes are what win and lose games, especially as you advance further and further in the playoffs. You know, like one key mistake can cost you a season, especially when you talk about teams like we are and the level that they're going to get to at the end of the year.
Yeah. No, it's a huge deal. You got to be able to have guys that can kind of come off the bench and help you. I mean, I think like a guy like Wade Denton, who I saw earlier for Georgetown, I mean, he's been playing a big role for them. Just sometimes he comes out of the bullpen. Sometimes it's a big knock, you know, just a senior that knows how to compete and play. I think he's still uncommitted right now, which that's a guy that if I was a coach looking for, you know, somebody, I'd get some eyes on him. Maybe it's the D2 JUCO mid-major, whatever, but he's doing a lot of big things for that program. But yeah, it's you got to have the kind of environment and the culture and the coaching and stuff like that to where if you do have to lean on, you know, a guy that you didn't plan on leaning on, they can come in and do the job for you. Because like you said, it's like, yeah, how many times have you seen, you know, really loaded matchups this year? And it's like, it kind of comes down to a booted ground ball or a base running thing or just something little like that to where, yeah, that team just didn't get their outs on time or there's a pass ball situation and a key run scored. Like that's often what it comes down to. It's usually not like if the talent is even just kind of similar, that's usually not what wins on its own. It's those little things like just being able to play the game and run the bases and catch the ball behind home plate and get your outs on time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it happens at all levels. You know, you see it like we talked about the difference in that Tennessee and Texas game early in the season was a mistake. right? Like,
and that's the only game Tennessee's lost. The last I looked, so that's
no, they lost on Tuesday.
Who they lose to?
Tuesday. Tennessee Tech. And
the Matt Braga Express is back at Tennessee Tech.
Well, so the big I don't know if you want to call it controversy, and you get differing sides of the story depending upon who you ask. But so both teams used wood in the game. Interesting.
Okay.
Well, there's some people are saying, oh yeah, they played in a minor league park, and some people are trying to spin it as, oh well, they did it because they were playing in a minor league park. But there's also some there was the controversy against Vanderbilt with the bats, and there's been some buzz that there was a little bit of a, okay, you want to talk about that, like, well, what do you want to use, we'll do it, we don't care. And Tennessee Tech ended up winning the game, low scoring game, but gave Tennessee that second loss. But it's funny though, because like those in-state games, like, they mean so much, but like, honestly, I've seen a lot of teams that have been on runs like Tennessee have, and it probably ends up being a good thing for them, because they're made right, and they're obviously head and shoulders above everyone else right now. But it's those reality checks and those long winning streaks can be good. And I would expect, with a coaching staff like that, they're not going to get too overwhelmed by that one game, or too caught up in it. I mean, but it was interesting. It was a little there was some back and forth going on there, but they have another big SEC series this weekend, but I don't remember who. I think they play Alabama, who's actually been pretty good.
Who did they just swept somebody, didn't they?
Yeah, they swept Ole Miss.
Oh wow, that's a big one. There's, like they said, the League of No Mercy. That's so those midweek games sometimes just kind of they don't, I'm not going to say they don't matter, but like for resume perspective and stuff like that, it's not a big deal for those big name programs. For the lesser ones, it helps them, it could help them a lot, but those games sometimes get really chippy and really competitive. And,
you saw with Texas and Texas State.
That's you saw Abilene Christian beat TCU, like one of their first ranked wins in a long time or whatever it is. And ever. So those games can often have a little extra spice to them for sure. But it's we're getting to the stretch run here in college baseball. I mean, this is kind of the time where teams got to figure out who they are and make their move and everything else, and roles getting solidified and stuff like that. Because we're a little over the halfway mark, but it'd be fascinating to see how all these conference races, and if Tennessee's going to run away with it, what happens to the Big 12 and everything else. I don't know if I have a great feel for the Big 12 right now. I know Tech is sitting at 7-2, but they've also played Kansas and Kansas State already, so kind of tough to know.
There's a couple big weeks coming up. I was looking at some of the remaining schedules, and it's going to be interesting. There's still a lot of big matchups left out there in the conference over the next couple of weeks, so it should be fun. Entertaining, if nothing else.
Definitely fun, entertaining, and go a long way to determine what that postseason bracket looks like when it comes out. But have you hid any more eggs? Have you done any more Easter egg hunting? Or
I don't know what our plan is for that. We're going down to San Antonio for the weekend, so I don't know what our
I better alert the tortilla factories down there. The number one culprit for the butter tortillas is coming into town, and he's hungry.
We might hit every HEB on the way down and back.
Oh man, that's one city that like I really like going to, but I've never truly explored like the food scene there. Like I've had good stuff there, but we just often are.
There's a Pinkertons there.
What are you talking about? Yeah, I've been to that, and it is really, really good. Great setup too, big outdoor area and stuff like that. but besides, like, I don't feel like I've gone on like a big old taco binge in San Antonio where I do it the right way and kind of go to a lot of the great places and stuff like that. So that's a city I need to do I kind of need to do a food.
Even with all those Alamo Bowls?
Yeah. But like you go down there and you end up like staying kind of close by and tailgating, whatever. And like I love the river walk, but like a lot of those restaurants down there are more commercial chainy type places as opposed to kind of the true San Antonio areas and stuff like that. So that's a city I need to kind of do more food exploration for. I always try to give myself a little extra time to get down there, but the damn traffic's always so bad that it just shoots my plans. I never really get to do anything. But I was looking up San Diego food places last night because we're going to San Diego for a weekend, just the last kind of hurrah before the second kid arrives, and kind of looking through all the burritos in San Diego because that's not something I've done yet when I've been there. So yeah, let me know if you eat anything good in San Antonio that's like kind of authentic San Antonio, so I can add it to my list. All right. Said the usual stuff for the whole time, but yeah, we've got Jack's got 2 Easter egg hunts on Saturday. Oh, actually no, 2 birthday parties Saturday and then an Easter party on Sunday. So it's gonna be another busy weekend with the little man running around. Hopefully it looks like the weather will cooperate. Hopefully my tavern to go arrives to tomorrow or Saturday. Kind of mess with that and be an exciting Easter weekend. So
nice.
Hope we mix in a little relaxation for the dads if we can, but I'm not getting my hopes up about that. So we'll enjoy San Antonio, and to everybody listening out there, thanks for tuning in again. We've crossed the 17,000 download mark. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really excited to keep going out and seeing a lot of these games, a lot of these big time district matchups as these teams kind of make their playoff pushes and gear up for what many hope are deep runs in the playoffs and stuff like that. But you can follow the podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Podbean. We publish the video podcasts on YouTube as well, but make sure you're following all the 5 Tool stuff on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. I mean, we're all over the place, and I'm always amazed at the video stuff that those guys get, and but also too, like the exciting stuff. Like, it seems like every single day there's almost something like really exciting happening somewhere on the high school baseball scene. So thanks for tuning in, and if you're not tuning in, make sure you're hitting those follow buttons on there so you can keep up with us and all the high school content that we're doing. But that wraps it up for today. Until we talk to y'all next time, have a great Easter weekend and take care.